Zoe sat completely still. The leather straps around her wrists were tight. The room smelled like antiseptic and something older, something she couldn't name. Mr. Crane adjusted the strange metal helmet above her head and slowly lowered it. "Don't worry, my child," said Headmistress Blackwell from the corner of the room, her voice smooth as glass. "You'll be so much more pleasant after this." Zoe squeezed her eyes shut. She had maybe 10 seconds before everything she was, everything she believed, everything she loved would be gone. But how did a straight-A honor student end up strapped to a chair in a school straight out of a nightmare? Let's go back. Because this story starts the way all the best ones do, with a girl who just wanted to save the world. Zoe Hartwell was 14 years old, and a year ago, she was the kind of kid every parent secretly wishes they had, top of her class. 3 academic awards in a single semester. She remembered her teachers' birthdays. She helped her dad make pancakes on Sunday mornings. She'd curl up on the couch between her parents during movie nights, sometimes falling asleep there. She was bright. She was warm. She was theirs. Then summer happened. See, during one summer break, Zoe met a new group of friends at a local environmental camp. And for the first time, she learned about things that genuinely horrified her: deforestation, ocean plastic, factory farming, the slow collapse of ecosystems that most people were too busy scrolling to notice. And something inside Zoe snapped. Now don't get it twisted, caring about the planet is admirable. But Zoe didn't just care. Zoe became a one-girl revolution. She went full vegan overnight. She organized protests in the school hallways against plastic water bottles. She once threw a cup of fake blood on a classmate's leather jacket and called it performance art. She cornered teachers during lunch to lecture them on their carbon footprint. Her grades collapsed. Her friendships evaporated. And the fun, loving girl her family adored, she was gone. The day Zoe was called to Principal Dawson's office started like any other. She had just finished stapling anti-dairy flyers to the gym bulletin board when the school secretary appeared with that look. The one that said, "You're in serious trouble, kid." Principal Dawson didn't waste time. He laid it all out. Failing grades, 3 formal complaints from teachers, 2 from other students' parents. One from the cafeteria staff after Zoe had stood on a lunch table and announced that chicken nuggets were edible war crimes. Zoe sat across from him with her arms crossed, occasionally examining her fingernails. "Are you even listening?" he asked. "Multitasking," she replied. That was the moment he made his decision: indefinite suspension, effective immediately. And here's the thing, for just 1 second as she walked out of that office, the look on Zoe's face cracked. Just slightly, just enough, because for the first time, she realized she might have gone too far. That evening, Zoe sat at the kitchen table while both her parents stood across from her. Her mom went first. Her voice was calm, but her eyes weren't. "Zoe, do you remember 2 summers ago? You and Dad had that contest to see who could build the better birdhouse. You stayed up until midnight gluing feathers on yours." Zoe said nothing. Her dad picked up from there. "You used to sneak into our room during thunderstorms," he said quietly. "You'd be 15 and still knock on our door at 2 a.m. and we never minded. Not once. You were our kid," her mom whispered. "And now sometimes I look at you and I genuinely don't know who I'm looking at." Silence that followed was the loudest thing Zoe had ever heard. Then her dad slid a pamphlet across the table. It was navy blue with gold lettering. Miss Blackwell's Academy for Young Women Discipline. Elegance. Character. Zoe picked it up. "Read it. Set it down." "I'm not going," she said flatly. Her parents looked at each other. "Zoe," her dad said gently, "you don't really have a choice. Would you go quietly or fight back? Drop your answer below." The drive took 3 hours. Zoe spent it with her headphones in, staring out the window. Her parents tried to talk twice. She let them. When the car finally stopped, Zoe looked up, and her stomach dropped. The building was massive, dark stone, arched windows, iron gates with vines crawling up them like fingers. It looked less like a school and more like something from a Gothic fairy tale. The kind where nobody lives happily ever after. Headmistress Blackwell met them at the entrance. She was tall, impeccably dressed. The kind of woman who seemed to never blink enough. She shook Zoe's parents' hands warmly and smiled like she'd been expecting them for years. "Your daughter is in wonderful hands," she said. "She won't recognize herself when she leaves." Zoe wasn't sure if that was supposed to be comforting. The students moving through the courtyard didn't help. They all had the same haircut, a short, precise style, identical on every single girl, and they moved quietly, spoke softly, kept their eyes slightly downcast. They looked like copies of each other. Zoe's mom leaned in to ask about the haircuts. Headmistress Blackwell's smile didn't waver. It's simply part of our uniform. Simplicity, obedience, honesty. She paused. The young mind is a sponge, Mrs. Hartwell. These girls arrived here soaked in bad habits. All I do is give them a little squeeze. Something about the way she said that made Zoe's skin crawl. Zoe's roommate was named Madison Cole. She had the haircut. She had the posture. She smiled like someone had taught her how, and she'd been practicing ever since. When Zoe's parents hugged her goodbye, Madison greeted them with a warmth so practiced it felt rehearsed. It's such a pleasure to meet you. You must be so proud of Zoe. Then, the second the door closed, Madison leaned toward Headmistress Blackwell and whispered something. Blackwell's eyes shifted to Zoe. Is not permitted on school grounds, Miss Hartwell. Zoe blinked. She hadn't even noticed Madison clock it. She made a show of taking the gum out and pressing it slowly onto the nearest wall. Blackwell's eye twitched. Just barely. Score. Zoe, one creepy school 0 later. Alone in their room, Zoe confronted Madison. You can drop the act, you know. She's not here. Madison folded her hands in her lap. Not acting, she said pleasantly. I follow the rules because the rules are correct. Zoe stared at her. That's deeply unsettling. At midnight, Zoe made her move. She packed her bag. She crept to the door. She slipped outside into the cold night air and ran directly into another girl. Don't, the girl whispered. She had the haircut, but her eyes were different, sharp, present, alive. There are electric fences on the east and west sides. Guards on the main road. You won't make it 50 feet. Her name was Riley Summers, and she had been here for 14 months. They've caught 2 girls before, Riley murmured, pulling Zoe into a shadowed doorway. Smart ones. They'd mapped the guard rotations, found a blind spot in the cameras. They still got caught. What, we just stay forever? Riley didn't answer that. Instead, she said, come with me. There's something you need to see. She led Zoe through a narrow service corridor, stone walls, flickering lights, until they reached a small room with a cracked door. Zoe peered through. Headmistress Blackwell stood with her back straight, watching Mr. Crane, the school barber, prepare his equipment. In the center of the room, a girl was strapped to a chair. She was crying. She was begging to be let go. Please, I'll behave. I promise I'll behave. SHH, Blackwell said softly. You'll be so much better after this. Mr. Crane placed the helmet on the girl's head. The machine hummed, the girl screamed, and then, silence. When the helmet came off, the girl blinked, looked around. Smiled the same practiced, hollow smile that every other student at this school wore. She had become one of them. Zoe pressed her back against the wall, heart hammering. Haircut, Riley breathed. It's not just a haircut. Back in Riley's room, the full story came out. Riley had survived the machine because of a metal plate in her skull, a medical implant she'd gotten after a childhood head injury. The plate had disrupted the helmet's frequency, leaving her mind intact while her personality appeared to change on the outside. She'd been pretending to be fixed for over a year. Why don't you just escape alone? Zoe asked. Riley's expression shifted. My sister, she said quietly. We came here together. She wasn't as lucky as me. She pointed to a photo on her desk. 2 girls, arms around each other, grinning at the camera. You could tell they were close just from the way they leaned into each other. She walks right past me now, Riley said. Every morning at breakfast, she looks right through me like I'm furniture. Her voice didn't break, but it wanted to. Not leaving without her. Zoe looked at the photo for a long moment. Then we're not leaving without her, she said. The next morning did not go well. Zoe tried to spark some life into the student body at breakfast, whistling, cracking jokes, asking loudly why nobody at this school had ever heard of fun. Blackwell appeared within 60 seconds, but during the confrontation, Zoe slipped up. She accidentally revealed that she and Riley had witnessed the session the night before. By evening, Riley was gone from their usual spot, and when Zoe finally found her, she had a brand new haircut. The metal plate had been quietly removed during a routine medical check. And now Riley sat in the canteen with the same empty eyes as everyone else. Zoe sat on her bed that night feeling genuinely hopeless. Then Madison walked in. It's supper time, she said pleasantly. Zoe barely looked up. She started talking not really to Madison, just out loud about who she used to be, about how she used to actually be happy before she started carrying the weight of the whole planet on her shoulders. Do you even remember being happy? She asked Madison. No answer. Obviously. But then Zoe had one last idea. She reached into her bag and pulled out her MP3 speaker. She held it out. Madison stared at it like it was an artifact from another civilization. Zoe pressed play. A loud, ridiculous, wonderfully chaotic pop song exploded from the speaker. Madison flinched. Her hands flew to her ears. She squeezed her eyes shut, and then something happened. The smile faded. The posture changed. Her eyes filled with tears. Madison gasped. I don't. Where am I? What is this place? How long have I been here? Zoe grabbed her hands. Music. It's the antidote. The sound frequency. It undoes whatever that machine does. Madison stared at her. We need to do that for every girl in this school. Zoe grinned for the first time in days. That's exactly what I was thinking. Plan was simple and completely insane. Zoe would walk into Blackwell's office and announce she was ready for her haircut, buying time while Madison got into position. Madison would take the MP3 speaker to the main office, plug it into the school's announcement microphone, and hit play. Every speaker in the school, all at once, full volume. Zoe knocked on Headmistress Blackwell's door. Blackwell, she said sweetly, almost convincingly. I've been thinking I'm ready for my haircut. Blackwell studied her face for a long moment, then she smiled. I'm so glad to hear that, Zoe. As they walked down the corridor toward Mr. Crane's room, Zoe slowed her pace. She started talking. A lot. She pointed out the architecture. She asked about the school's history. She complimented Blackwell's posture. She had never complimented anyone's posture in her life. Meanwhile, Madison found the announcement office, unlocked with a bobby pin. She pulled out the speaker, connected it to the microphone input, and hesitated. She thought about every girl in this school who had arrived here full of fire. Stubborn and messy and wonderfully, frustratingly alive. And then she pressed play. The music hit every corner of the school simultaneously. In the science room, a girl dropped her pencil and pressed her hands to her head. In the library, two girls knocked over their chairs, reaching for each other. In the canteen, Riley Summers blinked, slowly, then faster, and looked around the room like someone surfacing from deep water. Her eyes found her sister across the room. Her sister was already running toward her. They crashed into each other so hard they nearly fell over. Riley buried her face in her sister's shoulder. Her sister kept saying her name over and over like she was checking it was still real. Back in the corridor, Headmistress Blackwell went completely rigid. She turned to Zoe with an expression that was no longer smooth or pleasant. What did you do? Gave your students their personalities back, Zoe said cheerfully. You're welcome. Every direction came the sound of chairs scraping, voices rising, laughter, real laughter, the kind that can't be rehearsed, spilling out of every room. Girls poured into the courtyard screaming and laughing and crying and hugging people they hadn't recognized in months. Blackwell strode out after them, arms outstretched. Return to your rooms. This behavior is completely unacceptable. Nobody listened. Nobody. Zoe, Madison, and a tearful, laughing Riley and her sister joined the flood of girls moving toward the front gate. For the first time in this school's history, the students were ungovernable. And it was beautiful. As the gate swung open and the girls streamed through, Zoe glanced back one last time. Headmistress Blackwell stood at the top of the stone steps, not panicking, not shouting anymore, just watching, and she was smiling, not the practiced, pleasant smile from before, something different, something patient. Like someone who had done this before, like someone who knew something Zoe didn't, like someone who was already thinking about what comes next. The gate clanged shut behind Zoe. She turned forward and kept walking, but the feeling in her chest, it didn't go away. And that is the story of Zoe Hartwell, the girl who went in a rebel and came out a hero. But is it really over? If you want a part 2, smash that like button and let me know in the comments. Should Zoe go back for the others who didn't make it out? Or should she expose Blackwell to the world? Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss what happens next. I'll see you in the next one.